Welcome to another episode of Angling Wisdom. I'm your host, Patrick Edwards, and today what we're going to do is we're going to do something that I've done for many, many years every spring, and that is tie up some of my favorite crawler harnesses. So stick around and see how to tie them yourself. All right, here we go. We're going to tie up some crawler harnesses for springtime. I have with me here a little kit that you can buy on pklure.com. It's got the Reef Rig, the Dakota Disc, and the PK Wobbler pieces in here. I also have a whole bunch of different colored beads and hooks and some high vis line that I'm using just for demonstration purposes. But if you're going to tie these up, I recommend Berkeley Trilene, and there is a link in the description if you want to get your own. This is 12 pound. This is typically what I use when I'm doing these, and the reason I use 12 pound is they tend to get beat up just a little bit. Make sure that in between fish, especially if you're fishing in really rocky, wooded, any kind of areas that would, put abrasions on your line, that you check it and make sure everything's good, because you don't want to lose that trophy walleye because your line snaps. That's always a heartbreaker. So you can get this again in the link in the description below, and there's a special code you can use for the month of April 2025 to get an extra 10% off because you watch this show. So check that out. I'll try to have that on the screen. I'm going to do picture in picture so that you can see what I'm doing when I'm tying these up, because a lot of people get confused on how do I tie this? What kind of knot do I use? How does it work? And that's another reason I'm using the high vis line, is so that you can actually see what I'm doing. So we're going to start with the basics. The very basic part is you need to have a good solid line, good sharp hooks, which I have here. And what you need to do is you need to tie, depending on how you want to do it, you can do single hook or you can do two hooked crawler harnesses. We're going to do the two hook variety. That way you can put on crawlers. I'm going to feed the line through the eyelet in from the top of this particular hook, and I'm going to feed through several inches of line here, probably about 8 to 9 inches. And the reason that I'm doing that is I want to tie the hook that's closest to your PK Wobbler, Reef Rig, Dakota Disc first. That way then I can tie the one behind it. And what I'm doing is just a basic Snell. So what you do is you just kind of loop the line around, you hold on to it. Then I'm going to do several loops. And what I always tell my kids when we're doing this is I like to do 6. You don't have to do 6 loops, but it's usually pretty good practice. So once I've done that, you'll notice there's a little loop in behind. I'm going to feed that tag end back through. And then I'm going to pull it from the front. And what you'll notice, if you can see this on the camera, is it slides up nice and tight. And then I've got line behind it. So this is the front hook. And you'll notice that it's in line, this hook shank, with the line itself. That's what you want. Because when the fish comes up and grabs it, you want to be able to hook them, which you will. Because they're going to go for that crawler or crawler tail, however you've got it set up. You might put minnows behind it, or maybe Berkeley Gulp, which also work fantastic. And my code works for that too, by the way. All right, so we've got that part done. Now let's tie the hook behind it. So again, you're going to come in through the top. We're just going to repeat this. This is called a Snell knot, for those of you who are wondering, like, Patrick, what is that knot? Well, it's a Snell. So I'm going to do that again. Probably should have given myself a little bit more line. That's something, again, it's been a year since I've tied any of these. So we're going to do that. We're going to go through this little loop here. Again, I'm just doing these for demo purposes for you. I'm going to pull that tight. And you want a couple of inches of line here, probably like 3 to 4 between. You want to put the head of the night crawler up here and the tail kind of back here for those short biters, because you will get those. Yellow perch are the worst. They'll come up from behind and grab it. But you can see everything is in line, and that's what you want. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim this tag end off We'll get rid of that. Now what I have to decide is, what kind of beads do I want? So for this one, we're going to just do something that has a little bit of, I don't know, looks a little bit different than what we're putting on the front end. I like to kind of have a couple of different wild colors to get the fish interested. So I'm going to do a pink one here. Let's slide that down so you can see that there. And what we're going to do first is this Dakota Disc. So how they, like if you were to buy these on pklure.com, that's how you would have it, is you would have the bead and then a Dakota Disc and then another bead. So we're going to just do the standard rigging. For some of my own, I'll add extra beads, or you can space it out however you want to do it. But we'll do that, and then we will put another pink bead up here. So we got pink and gold, which, by the way, if you haven't watched my episode on what walleyes see, those are some great colors for walleye just about anywhere. So I'm going to lay this out so you can kind of see it. This will shake through the water, has amazing action. I'll have to take it out on the water and get some underwater video for you guys in a future episode to show you how these bad boys work. But that's essentially the crawler harness, except for one last thing. You need to tie a loop in your line so that when you go to attach this to your bottom bouncer, you can do it. So what I do is I make just a little loop in the line like this. Then what I do is I turn it around on itself, just pinch it, then feed it back through. Just make a little loop knot like that. And you are ready to go. I'm going to trim this tag end off just a little bit here. Okay. So now you have a fully completed PK Dakota Disc. And that didn't take me very long. And what's kind of fun is I'll take like an afternoon, tie up 20, 30 of these, get them ready to go, and have them ready to go out on the water. If you are using monofilament like I am and doing kind of the same methodology that I'm using, just keep in mind, again, season to season, you get abrasions on the line if you're fishing them around structure. Typically you hit rocks, weeds, wood, can be lots of things, and it'll ding up your line. So you want to replace this line season to season. Plus UV rays are really hard on monofilament. Again, I have an episode on different types of line. You should go back and watch that, because I talk about why monofilament's good and why it can be bad. And sun does damage it pretty quickly. So there's a Dakota Disc. So very simple, very easy to make. Let's tie up a Reef Rig next. So again, very simple process. We're going to tie up a lot of these, by the way. If you buy the Reef Rig, they come with a slow death type hook on them. I'm not doing that for purposes here because I don't have a bunch of those laying around. But what I'll do is I'll tie, again, like if you're just doing like a traditional crawler harness style, I'll show you how that works. So we're going to tie our Snell knot, get that in place so that it's nice and easy to see for you. So I got my loops. I'm going to come back around. And sometimes this can be a bit of a pain to hold on to. When you're tying these, it takes a little bit of time to get used to, but once you get used to it, it's not bad. All right, so I have the first snelled hook up at the top. Again, it's in line with the actual line the way you want along the shank of that hook. That is perfect. So it's ready. Now let's do the second hook here. So I'm going to feed it through the top again, make that loop just like I did on the others. We're going to feed it around. I'm going to try to speed this up a little because I know it's just so much fun watching me struggle with this. All right. I'm going to tighten that up. And by the way, if you screw up, the nice thing about it is it's really easy to redo. It only costs you a little piece of line. So make sure that those are on there nice and tight. I got a little bit bigger gap than I would have liked, but that's okay. Now, again, we're going to pick whatever color of bead we want to go over the top of this one. So I'm going to put a purple one. And like I said, you can add several. It never hurts to have like 3 or 4 different beads on there. Now with this one, the way you want to rig it is you'll notice on the back of these, it says pklure.com. You want to rig through the back so that the flashy part is on the front. These are kind of like those smiley blade things. And so you want to rig it that direction. Also, this leader is very short. I'm doing this just for demo purposes, but your leader length, you can see that's spinning pretty nice right there. Moves really easily going through the water. But your leader length, you want to have between, like I would say minimum, you want 2 feet. Your crawler harness to be 2 feet. I would say maximum, you're probably looking at 3 feet. I know some guys that'll fish 4-footers, but I know that they get hung up a lot too. So that's not ideal in my opinion, but you can see this Reef Rig. The nice thing about it is it spins so easy in the water. All you have to have is a little bit, like you can go super slow, 0.1, 0.2, you know, very, very slow, and this thing's going to move, which is fantastic for walleye because sometimes they aren't that active. All right, and then we're just going to tie a little loop again, just for demonstration purposes. I'm not going to use any of these out on the water with this high vis line, but just make a loop. Hold it, turn it in on itself, and come back through. So now we have a Reef Rig and a Dakota Disc. Scoot this guy and lay this here. You can see I did a little bit too long there, but that's okay. Again, you can adjust these and do it however you want to do it. Last but not least is probably my favorite one, and that's the wobbler. So the PK Wobbler, this little guy, it moves through the water, and this thing kind of spins on the line, and it has some crazy action to it, and it gives a whole bunch of action to your crawler, which is fantastic. And there's a whole bunch of different colors. I mean, tons of different colors. This one right here is a trout killer. This one works great for trout and walleye. This is probably my favorite though, right here. This one that's kind of like a green chartreuse. That thing catches a ton of fish. I've caught fish on all these different color varieties, but we're going to tie up this green one with a little bit of gold. Green and gold seems to work really well on my home body here on Boysen. So I'm just going to show you just real quick how I would do that. Once again, we're going to go through the top of this hook. We're going to pull it through a ways, make our little loop so we can tie our Snell. Go over several times. Feed it back on itself. And what's really fun is, like, if you have kids, my son Benjamin, he loves tying these up with me. It can be a fun afternoon activity if the weather, like you get some of that spring weather where, you know, it's kind of nasty outside. This is a great one to do on days like that. Today is not like that here, but I got to get some videos made. So here we are. All right, so I've got my initial front hook with that Snell. Now I'm going to put on the back hook. And by the way, I buy really sticky hooks in bulk. You want to get high quality hooks, ones that aren't going to come loose, you know, on the fish, ones that are a little bit more high carbon that aren't going to get damaged as easy. I recommend getting really nice hooks like Owner and Gamakatsu's if you're going to be doing crawler harnesses. Oop. Oh, see, there's a good example. Sometimes you lose the line in your hand and you have to like figure it out again. There we go. I just made a mess. It's fine. This is that cheap high vis line just for demonstration purposes, so it's definitely not as nice as my trilene stuff. Okay, I'm going to feed this through. Get that Snell cinched up tight. All right, I've got my Snell 2 hooks for my crawler, so it'll hold them in place really nicely. And now I'm going to put on the wobbler. Now, you're probably wondering, well, how do I put it on? Which direction do I go? Well, you can do it either way, but if you want a lot of action, you want the flat side going forward because that's the part that's going to hit and resist on the water. And it's kind of cool on their website. You can look at different ways that they do it. Oh, and I missed a step. I got to put the bead on first. So let me grab a bead. Get that on there. I'm going to put this guy. These are really cool looking. Get a bead on there. Then again, you want the flat side out. Flat side out. Put that on. Get another bead. And again, you can mix and match the beads. Bead kits are really easy to find. I'll try to put a link in the description of the different places you can get them. But there you go. You now have a PK Wobbler. Again, I love using these things on Boysen, Glendo, Keyhole, because they catch fish. And I've seen them catch lots of different species like catfish and perch and crappie, trout, walleye, you name it. But you can see how that kind of swings around pretty easily on there. When it's darting through the water, it really gives the crawler a lot more action, which is really fantastic. All right, we're going to tie that loop again so we have a place to hook on to our bottom bouncer. So there you go. Got one of those. And now you know how to tie up crawler harnesses. These kits are available on pklure.com. You can buy those, and they just come in this nice little box. Makes it really easy. Again, you can find these pretty much anywhere online, but this is a fun activity. It's a great way to start your spring. You can put together your own crawler harness kits and have your own DIY stuff to take out on the water, which is really fun for me. Like, I always like catching fish on something that I've made. And, you know, if you have kids, again, fantastic activity. Not only do you just have fun hanging out together, but they get to learn how to tie different knots and make their own color combinations. I remember my son made a really cool color combination a few years ago, and it caught a whole bunch of fish. So you just never know. So experiment. You got all kinds of different colored beads, different kinds of PK crawler harness attachments here that you can try. And get out there and have fun. That's the whole point of this, is have a good time, go out and enjoy your fishing. And now you have several different things that you can make. They make other kits as well that you can buy from other retailers if you want to go with like traditional type blades. And so I have a whole nother kit here. But you can make those as well. But I would recommend these PKs. These are fantastic. This is about all I do anymore. And they catch lots of fish. And so we'll get some footage of that this summer. But thanks again for watching. And again, I've got deals going on through the entire month for Berkeley, Abu Garcia, and Pfluger. So if you want to save 10% and help support the show by buying stuff using my code and my links in the description down below, that's fantastic. It really helps our show. So I'd encourage you to do that. So again, from April 1st all the way through the end of April 2025, this deal's going on. So use the codes and the links in the description to do that. And we'll come back again for another episode of Angling Wisdom. Thanks again for watching. Angling Wisdom has been brought to you by TB Custom Rods, Kafaru, and PK Lures. Don't forget to subscribe to Angling Wisdom on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts so you don't miss any of our new episodes. Also go to anglingwisdom.com for more fishing content. Until next time, I'll see you out on the water.